First, before we start, I want to introduce everybody to, in case you don't know, Dexter Layton, Village Attorney, Ed Silva, Village Manager, Mark Alvarez, Zoning Director, Kelly Craig, where she went, she'll be back, and I'm David Singer. I've been thinking about doing this for a while. The history of what we call DUV. So I think Ed Silva turned out to put it together. He did a lot of work, I did a lot of work, and it took a great amount of time. Let me start by giving everybody a little bit of my background. And there's a reason I'm giving my background, and it will become important later on. I graduated from Florida State University, University of Miami. I went to work at Kenneth Leventhal, a national public accounting firm that specialized in real estate. I was an auditor and worked due diligence projects for real estate and hotel developers for 7 years. I'm a Florida CPA and I hold a real estate license. I worked for Lincoln Property Company as controller and worked and supervised property managers at 701 Brickell and Miami Center. I've been hired as an expert witness for real estate and other South Florida litigation over the years. For 20 years, I've worked for a very well-known real estate development company. I've been involved in developing over 1.5 million square feet, managing and leasing over 3.5 million square feet of retail and office space. In my career, I've been employed as a CFO, a COO, a CEO, all in real estate for the last 20 years. I'm currently on the board of directors of Florida State University, Real Estate School, and have been asked to speak to incoming freshmen many times about real estate, although I still haven't had the opportunity. And saying all that, in all my experience, I'm still not an expert in real estate zoning. I'm also not a public speaker, okay? But the main thing is, I am not, with all my background, I am not an expert in real estate zoning. Zoning codes are like internal revenue code. They are continually in fluctuation, but cannot take property rights away from owners. It would be like if you bought a house and you decided you wanted to put a pool in, and about 5 years after buying a house, and all of a sudden the government said, I'm sorry, we're not going to let you put the pool in. It doesn't work. It's illegal, and it just doesn't work. In saying that, I fought for residents' rights when it comes to downtown zoning for the past 7 years, but I think it's important for residents to get the correct information from the village and not rely on incorrect blogs and Palmetto Bay residents who have no proven knowledge relating to zoning. No zoning education, no history of working in zoning, and not even understanding how we got to the point we are today. So my biggest, if I had one wish out of tonight's presentation, it would be that everybody walked away with an understanding for the past 15 years how we got to pre-Palmetto Bay zoning and where we are today, which, by the way, I'm not 100% satisfied with. So, in just saying that, where we are today. But there's too many blogs out there and information from residents that don't have the experience that are feeding residents incorrect information on zoning codes and laws and that type of information. So with that, let me start the presentation. And by the way, you guys don't mind if I drink water every once in a while during my presentation. I'm also going to cheat and look at my notes as we go through. It's my water. Sorry, it's always technical difficulties.
That's good.
I can take off my glasses if you make it a little fuzzier.
He's actually now. Okay, so this is, if everybody got it, you can follow along, which makes it a lot easier. But this is the village of Palmetto Bay, downtown zoning district. Look. So the town center, what we call the DUV area, is 3.5% of the land mass of the total Palmetto Bay. Palmetto Bay is about 96.5%, or the rest of Palmetto Bay is about 96.5% of the total. The DUV is 3.5. The town center over the years has been neglected both by the county and by the inaction due to our code. Most residents rarely visit this area, yet it has great potential as a community hub. What the area today and why revise the code? Why are we continuing to revise the code is more like it. Current conditions simply are not representative of our community, with high turnover, low rents, no investment, and low end rentals. Everybody's complaining about rentals in the downtown DUV. They all want condos. Well, currently 75% of the houses in the DUV are rentals. To revitalize our downtown and provide services to our community. History. The area has always had commercial uses. Prior to incorporation, the area was zoned for a maximum intensity of 32.7 square feet of construction. Now, I'm sure that there's some certain people, and you'll see their pictures and their faces on the next couple slides, where around during incorporation, they'll understand where we are now compared to where we were. The area did not intensify during that time due to infrastructure deficiencies. Many have not, and many did not have sewer capacity. Here's one of our original residents that everybody will vote on. Can you hear that?
Sure.
It's not gonna work. It's back, okay. That was just one of our residents talking about redevelopment years ago. So, this area, okay, so this is a graph that shows what could have been built here before we changed it, and after Palmetto Bay incorporated. Miami-Dade County designated this area for current intense use of residential and commercial. Miami-Dade County does not provide for proper infrastructure for this area. The area has since seen a severe deterioration, high turnover, land banking, and havoc over actually 23 car dealerships move into the area. Next. Miami-Dade County, if you look at this, and everybody knows this is the center island, you look up there, that's the center island. Miami-Dade County would have allowed a 27-story building with over 570,000 square feet on the site currently automation sitting on. Miami-Dade County would have allowed a 20-story building on the site where Mayor Shelley Stanzik's shop used to be on. Okay? In comparison, through zoning about 6 months ago, Audi dealership bought the land and is building a 2-story building that was approved by this council. So before the TIF was passed, a 27-story building would have been allowed on the island, or a 20-story building would have been allowed on the island. Village of Palmetto Bay incorporated in 2002 to provide better services for the residents. We improved parks, improved park services, improved public services, improved government, and improved planning. Okay, sorry. Incorporation in the FT&I in 2004. After Palmetto Bay was incorporated, I think the residents and the council understood that something had to be done to reduce the zoning laws in Palmetto Bay. There was too many apartments, too much retail were available to be built. So an FT&I shred began on April 17th, 2004. An FT&I shred adopted November 8, 2004 by resolution, and then the FT&I adopted by ordinance 6 of 06, June 6 of 06. Some of the people that were involved are still involved, actually. If you notice, Henry Clifford's in the room, Chuck Ladshaw's in the room, Marsha Matson's in the room, and Shelley Stanzik. These are all the people that work on the FT&I. The major items requested from the charrette during 06, if you look, is to allow rentals in Triangle, to provide for a community center, to add structured parking, to provide for a charter school, which we all know we don't want right now, entrance features on US 1, but this was the beginning of the FT&I code, and there were a lot of residents involved in the code. So after the FT&I was passed, we went from 32 million square feet per Dade County code, 23,000 rental apartments or condos, and 12 million square feet of commercial, down to 9,900,000 square feet, 4,300 units of either condos or apartments, and over 6 million square feet of commercial. The FT&I reduced intensity, it introduced mixed-use buildings, it introduced a form-based code, which is different than the codes I usually use. I've used codes that are based on FAR, on height restrictions, and on landlocked restrictions, and provided for unique design elements, provided for reduced parking, provided for reduction in intensity from 32 million square feet before we were Palmetto Bay to 9.9 million square feet. Why the FT&I failed to attract new development? Everybody knows we have a DUV. You'll see that later on. We went from an FT&I to a DUV. Infrastructure was not ready. The sewers were just completed as late as 2012. The FT&I ordinance did not apply. Charrette recommendations completed. The form was not clearly defined. Incentives were not addressed. Economic conditions were not addressed. No investment from government in the area except for Village Hall in 2009. Examples of failure. This is one of the buildings I consider a failure, although I'm sure they don't want to hear that. This is one of the buildings I wish were not in Palmetto Bay. Parking takes most of the ground floor blueprint. No building articulation. No windows or open storefronts. Limited landscaping. Parking in front of Front of the building is not pedestrian friendly, an uninviting, unsafe design for pedestrian activity. Covered and uncovered lot exits and driveway entry are too close to one another. I'm hoping that we never see a building like that at this time yet. Here's another building you recommend, or you'll notice this is the Vice Mayor's building. And these are some of the failures I feel are on this building. Parking takes most of the ground floor blueprint, unsightly signs, lack of windows, no open storefront, landscaping placement blocks view from street, uninviting street, too many driveways in the building, and no sidewalks. Another building that is not exactly the best looking building in the world, no building articulation, no signage on the east side of the building, narrow arcades, light placement, limited landscape, no street furniture, narrow sidewalks. These were all built during the years the FT&I was around. Everybody will notice this building. I don't necessarily think it's total failure because I like its architecture, but it has no parking, none whatsoever. No interaction at the ground level. This is the one that's off of US 1 and has a really good Italian restaurant there. So the FT&I height designations during 2004 and 2015, everybody says the heights have been raised, the density has been raised. That's not necessarily true. The density has been raised, that's not necessarily true with the DUV. The DUV is not perfect, but the DUV does not give the ability, okay, to some of the heights and densities. In the island, there were 8 floors, plus you could get 2 extra floors to make it 10 floors. So you could have an apartment complex in the middle of the island during the FT&I years of a 10-floor maximum. You could also have, on the east side of US 1, you could have 5-floor maxes, 4-floor maxes, and 2-floor maxes. Districts further defined in terms of maximum amount of stores allowed. Maximum is 8 with 2 penthouse floors. So we were definitely allowed 10 floors the island during the FT&I. FT&I modifications. The FT&I was a total failure. So during the, I guess, your first term, Mayor Flynn, there were attempts to fix the FT&I. So it was an attempt to allow a waiver for parking requirements, a waiver for maximum density, required liner buildings to block structure parking to be waived, the maximum size of blocks eliminated, alley for super blocks. What they wanted to do is still bring business and residents into Palmetto Bay. They were trying to do everything possible, so they basically just waived all the code requirements. Now, if you notice, it was adopted 4-1 with a dissenting vote by Mayor Gene Flynn. So everything was waived to bring people in, and the only person who voted against it was Mayor Gene Flynn. This is one of 3 ordinances to try to waive all the requirements of this FT&I. The second FT&I modification was an ordinance to allow for consideration of uses not previously allowed in the district trying to entice new businesses in the corridor. Everybody voted on the council voted yes to that. And the third one that was actually proctored by, I guess it was Councilperson Shelley Stanzik back then, was the ordinance allowed for payment in lieu of parking fund, in lieu of parking requirements, so you didn't have to have any parking there as long as you paid into a fund. The funds were meant to be used to provide for structured parking facilities, and the funds were also meant for providing parking meters all over the streets of Palmetto Bay. In 2000, now we're up to 2010, and Dade County decides that they want to have some sort of intermodal center in Palmetto Bay. So they decided to give Palmetto Bay a grant of $1.2 million. The grant, the building, which you'll see next, the building would have been next to the village hall. The grant had to be given back, okay? or 800,000 of it had to be given back because the council at that time was so busy in the Palmer Trinity litigation that they did not move on using a grant in the amount of time that it was required to. So Palmetto Bay had to return the 800,000. The intermodal center never got built, and I guess just flip it. The intermodal center was designed, and I'm gonna give you a second. I will tell you who designed it and who did the traffic study. Pinecrest did a traffic study and also designed the intermodal center. The intermodal center that was never built and the money that had been given back. This was supposed to be on the lot right next to Village Hall. This probably would have helped a little bit the traffic situation. It had over 450 parking spaces. It was commissioned by Cordino Group. Four subgroups. First meeting was held on May 1st, 2013, and then the first budget after the group came to the council, okay, approved contribution to fund the group October 1st of 2013. Over 100 meetings were held, including the main group and subgroups of more than 1,200 hours donated from residents to task force. The DRTF's purpose and vision statement, downtown Palmetto Bay, what is it missing? Well, I think it's the same thing that it's missing to today, okay? It's missing retail, dining, entertainment. It's not missing necessarily residential, but it is missing offices. So back then, when they were talking, the DTRF was talking, they're still talking, as we're still talking today, these are the things that we want to see in the downtown area. And nothing really has been completed except for the residential component of the vision statement. Yeah. We're gonna try one more video.
Downtown experience was very successful. The community heard us and they came out and showed interest in finding out what we're all about. Secondarily, the task force members are here. They're staying with the project. They're putting forth the effort, they're putting forth the ideas. They're saying this can happen. Let's all come together as one community. And we believe this Palmetto Bay grow from the economic base. And that's what this whole project is about.
These are some of the meetings that they had. Actually, I was asked to leave one of the meetings because I had a disagreement with our old village manager. He wouldn't let me ask any questions, so I know how you guys feel. Anyway, so you have Vice Mayor John Dubois presenting at the DRTF, discussing investment in the downtown area and funding issues for infrastructure improvements. You have a rendering, there were lots of renderings actually when I was there, of 12-story buildings, 10-story buildings, whatever. I always thought that the buildings were too high and needed to be brought down. Okay. The video we can keep that moving.
September 17th, Village Manager Ron Williams' initiative to create downtown Palmetto Bay took another positive step in front of the Village Council. Led by Building and Capital Projects Director Ed Silva, a task force made of village residents and business this project. The goal, to create a vibrant, questions, interact with the drawings, and hear voices of residents in the hopes that they would become more comfortable with the project and streamline support for the task force. One task force member, Stanley Stancic, made an impassioned plea to the council, saying it was their duty to improve the lives of residents. He went on to say that the brain trust of the task force, comprised of highly regarded professionals, which represented over $1 billion in business acumen. Those members had already donated more than $250,000 of their time to this worthy cause.
Okay, thank you. And also, as you see, there were over 100 meetings that they had, village residents. 100 meetings that a lot of people's time, I think he said $250,000, which, you want to see them? Oh, one more.
Behind this, our way of investments, instead of 5 stories, maybe we give them 6 stories. Maybe we give them 7. Okay, depending upon the location. But what it's called is working together to make something come true and actually come up with a functioning, livable downtown. We think we started the process correctly. I hope I answered your question. They are definitely behind this. They see the benefits from it all the way around. Now, I can't speak for future councils, but I can tell you what's going on.
So during that council, or during that period, the council was looking at 6 stories, 7 stories, 8 stories, 9 stories, up to 12 stories from what I understand. I think actually was moving on that. So the DRTF recommended a market study commissioned by the council. The purpose was to provide future demand estimates for the downtown area by preliminary use and development projection, blah, blah, blah. The council resolution approved the study on 1/23/14. Presentation of preliminary results was made to the village council on 4/7/14, along with the survey results, and projections have been confirmed. All figures have been remained unchanged since April council meeting. Market study findings by Lambert and Associates. Retail demand estimate, 110,000 square feet needed by 2020. Residential demand estimate between 1,200 and 1,700 units initial demand based solely on population growth. Office demand estimate, 135 to 270,000 square feet needed in the area. That is the study that was presented to when Shelley Stancic, I believe, was mayor. The DRTF recommended a traffic study commissioned by the council in 2014. The purpose of the study was to document the results of the traffic impact analysis for the downtown redevelopment and determine if adequate road capacity is available to support the future projects. This was the traffic analysis that was done. If you look at your handout, I don't want to get into the minutiae of this, but there was a traffic analysis that was done when the group met. They made recommendations as far as roads that should be built and to ease the traffic congestion. The FT&I in Miami-Dade County never considered, the FT&I is really important, the FT&I and the Miami-Dade County never considered traffic in studies or zoning considerations. So before the DUV, nobody looked at the traffic that was going to be caused in this area by zoning. The DRTF recommendations in the island, 20 stories, 15 stories. East of US 1, 10 stories, 7 stories, 4 stories. These are the recommendations that the group in 2014 gave to Village Hall. Mayor and council comments. I'll just read a couple of them. The initiative is a long run to help our tax base grow without impacting our residents, Mayor Shelley Stanton. Next one, we built the village as the first step in the plan to improve the neighborhood in general. Vice Mayor John Block. 2014 survey results during this period showed overwhelming support for the downtown district and showed importance of keeping our taxes low. The DUV DRTF was written by Mermello, as approved by the council on January 14th. Mermello reduced the heights and density from what the DRTF recommended, and Mermello won the award for innovative code. So let's take a look at graphs because it pretty much tells a story. Before we were incorporated, and a couple years after we were incorporated, we're under Miami-Dade's old code. There were 32.7 million square feet available to be built in the DUV area. 20,000 residential units and 12 million of commercial. The FTI, which was in place for, I believe, around 8 years, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, brought it down to 9,900,000 square feet. 4,300 residential units and 6 million square feet of commercial. When the DUV, which I fought against, was written, it brought it down by 30% to 6.8 million square feet, 5,300 residential units, and 2,000 square feet of commercial. DUV further reduced intensity by 30%, required wider sidewalks, required more landscaping, provided incentives, provided for unique streetscape and buildings with greater street interaction. Some of the examples of the DUV buildings that we've approved over the last couple of years: Sandpiper, Shores, which we just approved, Parkview, and Atlanta. To date, we have approved 1,000 apartment units and 72,000 commercial square feet. We still have, according to the DUV code, unless it's changed, 578 bonus units. Now, if people don't understand, because they might not understand, we were allowed 24 units per acre. That's correct, right? And we were giving, and there will be a slide, we've been giving out bonus units as these buildings have come out in front of us. DUV facts: density lower than the FTI by over 30%, maximum unit count based on traffic study, provides incentives to diversify tax base away from residential backbone, keeps density where it belongs along main highway, buildings are forced to interact with streets, codes provide funding for public infrastructure by implementing impact fees, which, by the way, in the old code, I do not believe there were any requirements for impact fees. They were so desperate to get new businesses, new apartments, new office, that there was no impact fee provisions. Buildings have varying features and designs. This is just a graph of the buildings that have been approved. I believe one probably won't be built, and that's Sandpiper, but all the other ones I expect to be developed. We've received $7.5 million. We started using the money. During my first month on council, there was an unsolicited multimodal project that was that I sat and I actually voted against. This unsolicited project was received for a multi-mobile parking garage. This included a restaurant and 20,000 square feet of civic use to the village at no cost to the village. The vendor or the developer who was going to build this building for us was going to do it free of charge, and just basically you permitted us to use 20,000 square feet for village purposes. Right now we're working on RFP is in place, and it's a parking lot. You probably just parked it. An RFP is currently in plan for this site. Hopefully somebody will come back and build us a building like this, not this high, but a building for us for free. Residents concerned with the DUV hear this every day. Buildings are too tall. Well, if you think they're tall now, if we had fallen under the Dade County Code or the FT&I code, they would have been really tall. Too many rental units. Once again, we've limited the rental units on the DUV. And I'm not saying the DUV is perfect, because I don't like the DUV. I dislike the DUV, actually. I think it's too much residential and not enough office and retail. Not enough retail, no office buildings, absolutely complain. Too much traffic, absolutely complain. Method on bonus units award, new residents will lose our voice, buildings will turn into a Section 8 housing, areas too urban. All these complaints, if you look at the DUV code right now, and you look at what's before the DUV, I gotta tell you something, we have real issues. Not that we don't have issues now, but if you look at the Dade County Code and the FT&I Code, that would have been a complete, utter disaster for the village of Palmetto Bay. Bonus units review, current DUV code. As I was saying, it was 24 per acre. We've given out basically an average of 135 extra residential units for all 5 of the apartment complexes that we've approved. Only 3 to 4 more developments at the current average that could be built if we stick with the present DUV, which I'm not necessarily advocating for. After bonus units run out, density goes back to 24 units per acre, except for DTRs. And I'm not exactly a big fan of TDRs. Potential to restrict location bonuses, TDR units, is available to council that has not been undertaken. Let me explain that to you. So if a car dealer wants to sell TDRs, which right now they have a right to, we can restrict where those TDRs get allocated to. So if I want to do it on, I believe we want to do it we want to do it on one block and say, or the island, and say you can only take your TDRs to the island, that's where the TDRs would be used. DUV assessment by Dover Cole. The DUV assessment process, one-on-one interviews with the council, neighborhood group meetings, open community meetings, including via email, phone calls, DUV document review, and other documents review. We've been doing this for 2 years with, I think it's 2 years, year and a half, with Dover Cole. Let me just switch. These are just some general information about the review process that was done by Dover Cole. General recommendations, which once again I'm not 100% on board with. Amend and confirm the vision, amend the sector plan, determine if the DUV form-based code is organized around building types or lot types, don't award bonuses and incentives until they are redefined, expand detailed centralized parking system, clarify design considerations, amend the DUV as per notes, comments, in section 1. When I first came here, because one of the main reasons I actually ran was the downtown development code. I kind of fought the DUV after the last council voted on it, I decided to run. One of the first things I did was put a moratorium in place. I said, let's go back and let's look at the DUV. Let's look at the DUV and find out what the residents really want in a village. Residents, I know right away, residents don't want 10-story buildings. They don't want 8-story buildings. I'm not even sure they want 5-story buildings right now. Since the moratorium was put in place April 3rd, 2017, since we've been talking about it, and Dover Cole brought Dover Cole in here, I think I have extended the moratorium 7 times, and it's still extended. Every time we extend it, we can only extend it for 60 days, and then we got to come back and extend it again. So eventually we're going to run out of extensions. Here's the history again, because I want everybody walking out of here to understand where we are with the DUV, where we were when we were incorporated, where we were with the TINF, and where Dover Cole's latest suggestions would take us. So I will say it again. 32 million square feet, Miami-Dade, 10 million square feet, the FT&I, the DUV is 7 million square feet, and Dover Cole's recommendations take us to 10 million square feet. I'm not happy with that suggestion. Dover keeps density static in districts allowing for higher overall densities than current code. By the way, neither I nor the village manager, through conversations, are exactly enthralled with Dover Coal's recommendations. What does the tax rate growth represent to the community? Right now, residential residents are paying 85% they're paying for 85% of the money going into Palmetto Bay. With those 5 apartments that have been approved and are going to go up, instead of 85% of the total income, it will be 75%. We might even be able to reduce the taxes. So it will also help pay for parks and other things that we need. Let's talk about what the apartments have brought in as far as impact fees. Right now, those 5 apartments plus alley, okay, will give us $1.7 million in impact fees for parks, $1.1 million for streets, $3.7 million for art, and they were contributing another $700,000 a year to taxes. That's why from 85%, the residents will be paying 75% because we were receiving around $700,000. In the near future, as we try to sum this up for you guys, we are reviewing and improving the current code with modifications for height, incentives, and local location of the bonus TDRs. As I said, I'm not happy with the way the TDRs are being used to any location within the village. There's 4 other people who either will vote with me or not vote with me. I can't help it. I can't make their mind up for that. Finalize, rewrite with the Dover Coal planners and reduce density and other issues to be identified. Once again, I'm not happy with adding more density to the downtown area from where we are with the DUV. So there has to be a big adjustment with what Dover Coal and planners have recommended. The new code can provide funding for community needs such as future community center and park improvements, provide traffic relief through park and ride solutions, on-demand ride sharing, and autonomous vehicles. Common misconceptions. This is a very, very important part of this presentation. If you walk away with anything tonight, besides the fact that we've gone and steadily decreased the amount of square footage we can build in the DUV area, I'm going to ask our village attorney and Mark Alvarez a couple questions, and I'm going to give them a microphone so they can answer these questions. People think that we can prohibit rentals in the DUV area. So
the law does not allow the government to distinguish between types of ownership. It can distinguish on the usage of the property, like single-family residential. But if the zoning code allows multi-unit buildings, any code that allows multi-unit buildings cannot distinguish the form of the ownership of the people who are in those multi-unit buildings. It's also important to note that efforts that have a distinctly disparate impact on ethnic groups, racial groups, or poor are also prohibited.
Dictate types of businesses. Can we, through code, dictate types of businesses?
You can only distinguish types of businesses very, very broadly. Obviously, a charter school is a business, but you can't distinguish like pizza from restaurant from, what do you call that? If you have a real estate business or a law business or something like that, you can't distinguish to the exact type of business that you would allow in
in this location. Is there a way to do that per code?
No. No, the usages are up to the owner, and within broad categories, the government can regulate it, like, that's the classic versus Ambler, the first Supreme Court case that upheld the right of government to zone. Because zoning, of course, is a form of restriction, what you can do. But you can only do it very broadly. You can't specify this has to be a restaurant, or this has to be a real estate office.
And next, do away with development rights.
No, especially in Florida.
Well, let me make it a little bit more detailed.
Nationwide,
Wait, let me just make it a little bit more detailed. There are residents who want to do away with any kind of apartment or any type of square footage. They want to go back to saying this property has to be a one-story, single-family home.
well, all zoning has to be consistent with uses around it. But when we talk about taking away development rights, I assume we're talking about down zoning.
Correct.
Which is to say, something was once allowed and now a lesser use is allowed later. Now, it is true that, this is just a footnote, that sometimes a government can do it because the zoning that was in place was not practical and not working. But generally speaking, the rule is nationwide under both U.S. and Florida constitutions, but all constitutions. You cannot substantially deprive a property owner of a beneficial use of the property. Depending on what court you're in front of, some states let you take more away than others let you take away. But you can never take all away. And by all away, I mean you can't mandate only a use that, for practical purposes, is not a beneficial use. That's what is meant by beneficial use. But specifically in Florida, due to a law called the Byrd-Harris Act, the Florida legislature was concerned that constitutional takings law allowed too much taking by the government. So they passed the Byrd-Harris Act that if there is any reduction in property value due to governmental action, the property owner is allowed to challenge it. There are procedures, they have to notify the government gets a chance to back off if it wants, but those procedures are not particularly important. The standard, there is no specified number, but it's generally believed that as little as 10% reduction in value violates the Byrd-Harris Act. So if you've got an area that somebody was counting on building 8 stories, and you cut them to 5, they probably have what's known in Florida as cause of action. They probably have a legal claim. Now, sometimes the developer, if it looks like that's going to, meet the needs of the community, and there's all kinds of business judgments. So a developer who has more than 10% reduction might decide that it's worth their while to allow that to happen because they get into an area or they get the favor of the community. But you cannot restrict private property usage, downzone it substantially in Florida, especially with the Byrd-Harris Act. Now, if you were in Connecticut, you can get away with a lot more, or maybe I shouldn't use that phrase, but New England states, some of them you can deprive a property owner of a greater amount of value. But in Florida, the Florida legislature is very clear about that with the Byrd-Harris Act. And and it has substantially affected government. The governments don't want to risk getting sued under the Bird Harris Act. So you don't have as much litigation under it as you might think you would because governments simply, sometimes when they get the notice, they back off it and so forth like that. But, now there is some footnotes to this, based upon investment-backed expectations. But the general answer is you can't just say 2 stories only in that area. You can upzone it to 2 stories, but you can't downzone it from 5, or actually parts of the code allow 8. You can't downzone it from 8 to 2. Somebody's going to sue you. And we won 2 big zoning cases here recently, the Montessori and the village mixed use zoning cases, which I believed, me as a lawyer, which is not really, but I believe we would win those. An effort to do something like I just spoke of, I believe we would.
Thank you. Okay, so a couple more questions, and we're going to start, a couple more questions to Mark Alvarez, our zoning director.
That's your correct, man. Excuse me.
Have a nice night. A couple more questions for our zoning director, Mark Alvarez, because everybody says, well, you can't build because there's too much traffic, or can't build because there's too much traffic. So I'm going to,
The basketball games and make it win.
thank you. So I'm going to let Mark Alvarez respond to why can't we stop all building, all development because of traffic? So here you go.
Thank you. The short answer to it is that you cannot deny development for traffic emergency reasons. I'll explain a little more though. There's a general case and then there's a case for DUV. The general case is that may have occurred back in the mid-80s, Florida state, the state of Florida passed what's called the growth management laws. And they basically were the logical concept that before development takes place, the development has to have the infrastructure in place first, water, sewer, roads, etc. Unfortunately, it had the unintended consequence of increasing the amount of sprawl in the state. It was easier to build and widen roads in new areas. In areas like this that are basically built out though, any development, as long as it's within the zoning code, can develop to the limit of the zoning code. They can't be held back from the traffic. What they have to do is called mitigate. Mitigate means that they'll either widen the road, or maybe just widen or lengthen or turn lane. The purpose of the traffic study is to identify that mitigation, to identify the places where they need to do something. Sometimes it's just a signal change. A lot of times they don't need to do anything at all. So you can't actually say, no, you can't develop. They have to have the opportunity to do some mitigation. There are actually areas in this county where they don't have to do it at all. It's called the urban infill area, which in the village of Palmetto Bay is east of 77th Avenue. Getting back to the DUV, it's a special case. The DUV is the zoning district. That zoning district implements the land use plan and both franchise activity centers. Before the franchise activity center was designated, the village hired Kimley Horn, a large engineering company, to do an infrastructure study. So the village changed the comprehensive plan in the franchise activity center and defined a number of residential units and a number of space for commercial development that was allowable given the infrastructure. So in other words, we presume that as long as we don't reach that limit of 5,661 residential units in the franchise activity center, except for the DUV, or the 1.5 million square feet of commercial space, as long as we don't reach that limit, we do not overload the infrastructure for the franchise activity center. So it's a special case, it's called an activity center, and that's the way it works. So until we reach that limit, and then we have to look back at the comprehensive plan, we can't deny the development based on traffic alone. We still ask for a traffic study just to make sure the details are correct.
One way to think about this is, it seems somewhat logical that if there's a traffic problem, somebody shouldn't build until the traffic problem is solved. But what is a greater overriding factor is that in almost all cases, except for a big section of land where you make the developer build the roads themselves, in almost all cases, these are government roads. And if the government could, by refusing to build a road or widen the road, deny people the ability to use their property, that would be in fact a taking. So that's why we have the somewhat contradictory principles that we've tried to say traffic is a factor. You gotta do something about the traffic when you build. But it's absolutely true, as Mr. Alvarez says, that the government cannot, by failing to build traffic movement methods, roads, etc., rapid transit, deny an individual property owner their property rights because the government is lazy or backward or Miami-Dade County. That's the problem. Or the government designates Old Cutler a historic road, refuses to widen it. Now, I'm not trying to say what is and is not right there, but if you own property on Old Cutler and you were going to build on it, and then the government says, well, we're not going to widen that road, can the government, in effect, take your property from you? That's the principles that are involved. So government makes every effort to get the developer to do something about the traffic. But in the end, cannot, through its own neglect of building a decent transportation system, deprive individual property owners of their rights. That's where the tension is.
And the last question, and we'll start taking questions from the residents. Higher reduction. We'll talk about higher reduction.
Sure. I think the question is in reference to height reduction and how it affects density and intensity. Let me see. There are three things that limit any property as far as we can develop. There's density and intensity. Density means the residential units per acre. Intensity simply means the amount of commercial space for the area. After that, there's the form of the building, the height, the setbacks, and so forth. And the third one is the parking. In the case of the height, you can lower a building and make it short and fat and still have the same density, say 2 floors, as you'd have in a building that say has 5 or 6 stories. The difference will be that the 5 or 6 story building has a lot more land available. Its footprint gets smaller, the amount of land used gets smaller. It has a lot more opportunity for open space and creating an environment that you find more appealing. But in fact, we can allow very short and fat buildings that entirely use the lot for parking and the residential uses, and there will be nothing left except the street. So it's a very difficult question to answer because the height can vary, and we generally look at the height within a certain range as something beneficial that allows us to have open space, which is exactly why the current DUV allows height homes of 1 floor for a certain amount of open space. And 2 weeks ago, we dealt with that shorts.
Thank you. So I guess we can turn on the, there we go, last slide. You want to read it? I'll read it. Our village is not gauged by its geographical size, but by the broadness of its vision and the heights of its dreams. So that is the presentation, and I'm happy to take questions.
I just want to let the folks know, Councilwoman Cunningham, you're live streaming on Facebook, correct? So for those of you watching her feed and Mayor Flynn's feed, if you have any questions for Councilman Singer through them, you can ask them right on the page, and I'm sure they'll pass them along to me. For those of you who have your index cards and your pencils, please write down some questions and go ahead and turn them in, and I will ask them of Councilman Singer.
And I may
I'm going to object to this because last time the questions that were asked, handpick which ones would be used. My question was totally changed, and I could recognize it. And I think by just having people write out a question and you decide what's going to read, that is a violation of our rights. And I really think
I will read them verbatim off the card. How's that?
Well, I still think, it's all you've got is a sentence. And I think a lot of people have more to say than just one sentence.
I understand that,
You
but
can limit the time.
I understand that, but and I have no problem doing it your way.
And I heard a lot of objections.
But we've had a history through other town halls that I have of a resident taking the microphone and not giving it back after the allotted time. So if you want me to do that, I'm more than happy to switch it.
People in this room are very civil.
I'm more than happy, but if we go over 3 minutes, because there's a lot of people that probably want to speak, I need to ask you to give me the microphone. Okay, so if we can do it, if you want to do it that way, I'm more than happy, but we're gonna have to use do you know how to use the timer?
No, I don't.
Do you? Oh, this is easier. All right.
Does anybody else have, are they fine with this system? Yes.
I think we would rather ask a direct question and have it answered. If there's a time limit, whether it's 2 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever, that's fine.
Okay, it's gonna be a 3-minute timer.
Okay?
Okay, because I've had a resident who took the phone took the microphone for basically 10 minutes and wouldn't give it back to us, and they caused problems.
So we should be able to control it.
I will.
Okay, just a matter of transparency, I'm Anthony Gorman, I'm a candidate for council seat in District 1. Having said that, what is the plan for us moving forward with the code? I think we all believe that as it stands right now is unacceptable. However, I know we have to work with it within the rule of law. But what's your plan, Councilmember Singer, moving forward?
My particular plan isn't as important as 4 other people that I sit on the dais with. I would like to take Dover Poll's recommendations and the old DUV code and sit around at a workshop and just strike out and put into place with in an open setting and put into place with what the council members believe is reasonable and what the tenants and what the real estate people and what the residents want. But stating that, we have to follow the rule of law. If there is an issue where we go from 8 stories and the residents want 3 stories, they have to know that's legally impermissible. And they have to understand the fact that we can't be in litigation, the village can't be in litigation with developers or with people that own property in the DUV area for the rest of our lives, or the rest of our terms that we're on the dais. There have to be reasonable expectations from the residents to understand that there are rules of law. And unfortunately, some residents are passing out information or disseminating information that it's incorrect, because some residents think we can just sit there and rezone property from an apartment complex to basically a single family home. It doesn't work that way.
We had a gentleman, an urban planner named Jeff Speck, who came and made a presentation. Do you believe that what's going on in the development of downtown comports with his ideas as far as urban planning is concerned?
Once again, me personally, am I allowed to talk about this? 2 council people in the room?
If he was, ask your parliamentarian.
Am I allowed to give my personal?
What are you gonna talk about?
She's asking me a presentation if I can.
I'm reading about Jeff Speck, who came and made a presentation here. He's an urban planner. And does the downtown development follow the ideas of the urban planner, is what I'm asking.
Yes, you can say that. The other council members should not respond to you.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure
Because
I'm
it's
not.
not public. I mean, not a.
It is a public meeting, but I want to make sure I'm not breaking any ethic violations. So, I would like to see less density. I would like to see my vision, my personal vision is more retail, more office, less residential. That's my vision. I want to see more, and I'll say it again, I want to see those are less residential, more commercial, being office and retail, less density. But I also That's on one hand. On the other hand, I want to stay away from litigation. Although we've won the last two, okay? We have lost many in the past. And to me, it's a waste of taxpayer dollars to go into litigation on the Burke-Harris Act and know you're going to lose, because I know what that law requires, and I know the consequences of that.
I was listening to both our attorney and Mr. Alvarez talk about zoning and how you cannot downzone. Is it not possible to change the code for future development? Once we've granted the rights to existing buildings, I understand, you cannot take those rights away. But are you saying that no one can downzone? I worked for the city of Miami Beach. We went through a massive downzoning. And we never lost a Burke-Harris case. So it must be some way that, what has been approved now, I, in my mind, have to accept. Maybe not be happy with the total thing. But for the future, isn't it possible that one of the things in our code, when we work to rework the code, is to put in lower limits on many things, so we don't keep getting we don't want a concrete corridor.
I'll let the question about Burke-Harris go to our village attorney. And I think I've answered the question about density, so nobody should have any misconceptions of what I feel about the density situation in the village of Palmetto Bay or the DUV.
Well, some of the successful downzonings in Florida occurred before the Burke-Harris Act and were one of the causes or motivations of the Florida legislature's Burke-Harris Act. The fact of the matter is, it's not fair to actually say, downzoning is not a true or false question. You can downzone, you cannot downzone. It depends what you're dealing with and how your original code was written as to what rights were in it. For example, a lot of codes that, as Mark has pointed out many times, that use a floor to area ratio without height, specified height right, you could deal with their height, you could lower their height, because even though it might look to somebody like you're downzoning their height, you're actually getting some kind of compensation, so to speak, in the lower levels. And it's a matter of degree. I mean, a drastic downzoning causes an owner to be willing to spend the money to recoup it. A reasonable downzoning, and in some cases in the DUV, we have what are written as rights to what they're called bonus. In some cases, and they say you get this bonus if you do ABC. So if we had to, we would argue that really wasn't a right, but it's actually kind of written like a right. Depends which point I'm arguing for. So I believe the village could have some reasonable amendments to the DUV code, but we have to see exactly what they take away and what value it contributes to. And Mr. Alvarez, Mark made a comment that's kind of telling. When height is compensated for by a lot of open space, you could probably take that height, but then they're gonna have a boxy. They're gonna have a box building without any of that open space. But it would look like you effectively downzoned, except that you didn't actually take away that right, but you end up with a building that you don't like as much. Actual answers to the questions depend on, as Councilman Singer said and the others listening, what you come up with in a committee or a charrette or whatever you call these things, what you come up with in a discussion, and then, let's go from 8 stories to 2. No, that's not going to work. But you want to reduce the horizon some ways. You probably could. such a way that the developer sees no need to, to sue over it. I don't wanna make that point, I don't wanna make the legal realism point, maybe I'll come and then make it. But American legal realism says, Oliver Wendell Holmes, famous justice, said the law is not what the written law says, but it's what the courts or the private parties make the courts do. So I guess you can illegally downzone as long as nobody sues you. But you've been sued in this village, and so you gotta keep it within reason.
Actually, just to illuminate Miami Beach example, most what was downtown was a historic area. So the historic area designation, I think, went along with that. I know there was a lot of litigation. In fact, Tom's claim today. Yes.
Okay, I'm looking at everybody in 3 minutes, especially on our side. Thank you.
Those charts we saw that you showed the building come down from 10 million to this, to this, to this.
Correct.
That's not downzoning.
Yes, that will be down.
Can we keep going?
No, we just said that you.
So we did downzoning.
Yeah, we had, but we're
But
looking.
you're not- but you
And
can't-
honestly, we could have been sued in the past.
I wondered, and
How did we downsize?
ask that question. The reason was that this was I was born and raised in Homestead. I know Perrine for a long time, and I represented Perrine in the dark ages when I was in the state legislature. This was not an attractive area. The owners did not see that they could, in terms of their own dollars, vindicate those massive rights that Dade County had. So when that downzoning took place, there was no motivation to challenge it. I would say in your current situation, where you have some owners who obviously believe there's some economic value, you have a greater challenge of being challenged. But I thought that myself. Who's gonna ask how this happened? This is legal realism, you didn't get sued. Because it wasn't worth it.
I'm walking, where did you road by road?
With the problems that we have with the parking restrictions and all of that, what was the reasoning behind when we changed from the FTI to the DUV, we increased the number of residential units by about 25%? Can we reverse that and solve the parking problem?
No, if you saw the chart's right in there, we decreased the residential units.
You increased it.
No, it's right.
How big a reason
Next way. Okay. But we reduced the square footage.
Residential.
You're right, you're absolutely correct. We just went down, we went down in square footage.
You went down 25%, you went up 25%.
I would answer that question the same way I answered all the other questions.
My question is, can you reverse it?
I believe it takes an act of the council. And if the council gets together and they want to reverse it and go from the 43 to 33, that's what I saw.
It was 43.
43, and then went to 53. So if one would move back from down from 53 to 43, I think if you upzone something and then you turn around and downzone it by 1,000 units, is that going to cause any litigation?
If you upzoned it today and downzoned it tomorrow, which you can't do with 2 readings, but upzoned it today and downzoned it with 2 readings 14 days from today, you probably have not had the landowner affected in any reasonable way.
Thank you.
You notice I said 14 days later, but yes, here, where this has been in place for a while, it depends what landowners would think of their value. The number of reserve units is
Down to 585.
585 left. So you're already capped at 585 more over the 25 per acre.
No, that would be in addition to, the reserve unit would be in addition to the 5,000 or 5,300 you already have given.
Now, as I remember the code, what happened was you went to 25 units an acre which, by the way, would have been sued on, except because that was like a real drop. But it wasn't so much of a drop when you had the reserve units there, which could be gotten as a matter of right. So, had we been sued, we wouldn't have said, well, you're not really capped at 25 an acre, you have the reserve units. And it was including the reserve units that put it at, and I didn't write this code, but I know, as I've read it, that it's including the reserve units that you had that 25%. And 500, something, I believe, whatever it was, 500 units are left. And may I point out, and I'm not.
No, you're not allowed to say
another, but notice this.
Time.
That you would actually have to have every owner build out to 25 in order to have that number of units.
What they're doing. Every unit's had 300, how many extra units per building?
Okay, this is why I like artists, because we have conversations. Can you, go ahead, Marcia? I know, but
He put no BS.
Well, there are probably a dozen residents in this room who have gone over the DUV code line by line. We had several meetings, so we're very close to it, we really understand it, I think. And when Dover Coal came out with their report, it didn't look to us as though Dover Coal had accommodated the residents' recommendations whatsoever. So I like your idea that you recommended earlier, which was if you had your way, which I hope you will, that you will have a village-wide or residents meeting in which we can go line by line over the code and see what the residents really want. I mean, it might take more than one meeting. We had many meetings to go over the code, but I think that would be a fair thing, that we would find out how residents feel about it. And we could then present this to the council and modify Dover Code, which we don't feel really changes the DUV at all. So I hope you would consider that. I like your idea.
consider it. Thank you.
I have two things. First of all, I understand that Pinecrest limits to 3 stories, is that correct? And if so,
I think you have a height restriction, not necessarily.
how are they allowed to do that? How are they allowed to have a height restriction and yet we're being told we cannot?
Well, you do have a height restriction, it's just
Did you do anything about that?
different subdivisions of the DUV have different height restrictions. And the key here is not to write down a height restriction, it's the Arabic numeral you put in it.
Oh,
But
you
we don't know a number of people.
You know the code over this? I don't know the code.
I'm not sure the question, I'll take the code allows current code allows, in most districts of the DUV, there are 4 sectors. So it allows between 3 and 5 stories. In other words, it actually has a minimum number of stories, 3, and then a maximum of 5. As it's written now, there are 3 height bonuses. Each one has to be earned separately. Each one earned by doing something that's a public benefit. One would be, as 2 weeks ago, providing additional open space for generally. The other would be to provide underground parking, which is a public benefit because it helps to get parking not to show. And then the third one is to have a green roof, something more of an environmental consideration. So they would have to earn that each time to get the additional floors. But the as of right, as we often say, as of right, it's 5 stories maximum, 3 stories minimum in most of
The question was, I hope you don't mind me.
No, I'm sorry, I haven't seen it.
The question was at Pinecrest, they have a height limitation, and I think it's actually feet.
45.
45 feet. 40, okay. And if they have that height limitation, why can't Palmetto have that?
Yeah, a lot of municipalities do use actual height in feet. This This one doesn't, but in fact, it works out anyway because we have a maximum minimum height per floor. So if you add up the floors, first floor is higher, 18 feet throughout most of the DUVs allowed for the first floor, and then I believe, depending on the sector you're in, I think 10 to 12 feet maximum per floor. So we do end up doing the same thing. It's just an extra step. Generally speaking, most codes are moving to counting floors and not feet.
Thank you. Let me see if I phrase this correctly. Going back to the chart that you showed of those, that bar chart of the reduction in density, and the last item, the last bar, was a rise in density in relation to what's recommended through the Overcole's report, and that came in Overcole's presentation. And hearing some citizens who've gone through this quite a great deal. My question, I'm asking in a factual way, not in an opinion way, so that other people can chime in. Give me 3 things that you would change to the Overcole recommendations to get it closer to the density that we would like to have in that third, the orange bar, not the fourth, the blue.
Myself.
You or
Me or anybody? No, I guess I'll take that. Unless it's another council person. Fact, personally, and I said it before, I would like to see more offices and more retail than what Dover Cole has recommended. I'd like to see, I guess, less residential than Dover Cole, and probably I'd like to see a little bit more retail. I don't necessarily want to see, and we talk about this all the time. I have a conversation with Joe all the time about this. I don't want to see the canyons. I don't want to see 2 buildings sitting next to each other with that are 6 stories high. And I probably do away with some of the bonuses that are being used for height. That's just my personal, and like I said, my real problem is I'm only one of 5.
I'm going to ask my factual way, is anybody else?
Yeah.
This is the question section over here. So when I look at DRTF, purpose and vision statement, which is pretty much the same as the DUV, retail, dining, entertainment, residential, and offices. And then you go over to the DUV development chart, and you see Park View, 6 square feet per residential unit of retail and commercial. Sandpiper, 9 square feet. 7% at Park View, 7% public open space. These do not appear to comply with the vision. Okay, these are aberrations. These are building residential units without any of the other things that people were expecting them to be, because these buildings are not delivering the vision. And that's what a lot of frustration is. Regarding the Pinecrest, my understanding is that you can build up to 45 feet. One of the stories you can put in that meets their building requirements, but they don't have 3 stories of bonus units that you can provide. So they've capped buildings at 45 feet. No bonuses, no extra floors, no what looks like a lot of wiggle room, and it confuses residents because it looks like there are other things going on, trying to understand transfer development rights, that sort of thing. I would like to see is an expansion of this table to make it a little more evident for us, some of the comparisons. I think we can't put everything in here. For example, parking provided. Shores at Palmetto Bay is provided 100% based on what? 100% of what people would consider their need. One, they have unit, one parking spaces per unit, or business reductions in what they would normally be required because they're near a transit station, or given other considerations to give them reduced requirements for parking. So I would just get the questions together and send them to you so we get more information from here so that we can understand how this is supporting the view of the DUV. The last comment on the question is, I did spend a lot of time on the DUV code. I met with Overcole. There's a group that wrote a written report which was given to council and given to the basically was nothing really that was in there was taken apart. So yes, we can put up on a chart, we met, and we considered everything, and we didn't agree with any of it, because we know what we want to do before we get citizen input. So, and also, I'm sorry, last one, the gentleman that made spec, that came in and made the report on the walkable village, a number of his recommendations appear to be in conflict with what Dover is recommending. And I hope some of those things will be taken into account when the council looks at the code again.
In the presentation for sure, just village expert, planning director there, he made a statement which kind of set my teeth on it. I always kind of thought I lived in a real world and tried my best to do so. And he made a statement which doesn't jive with all my years of experience living down here. He said we don't want to require too many parking spaces because this would just encourage people to drive their cars. And I'm just curious which world he actually lives in. That is our village expert. That's the sad part. His testimony is the only expert witness we have on it. And he doesn't believe we should have parking. The people who have apartments should be allowed or are encouraged to have cars. The sad part is South Florida, Houston, cities like that, if mass transit ever arrives, it won't be in my lifetime, and probably not in the lifetime of anybody in this room. It's a nice dream. Okay, so the practical question here is, you built Dayland North, which is a mostly parking garage. Dayland Station, excuse me, which is mostly a parking garage with a very nice retail sitting in front of it. I know it costs a lot of money to build elevated parking spaces. This is a practical question, it might just be a dream. Is there a way to build elevated parking spaces, which I know are expensive, that can be later, when the demand disappears, be converted into office?
Yeah, okay, let me answer that because actually I have a little bit of experience. So each parking space averages about $17,000 to $27,000. That's what it costs to build, elevated garage. We've done a couple of shopping centers with elevated garage because, as you know, when there's one if you go over the causeway on heading towards Miami Beach, we did that one. It's on 5th and Alton, and it has a Ross, and it has a TJ Maxx, and it has a Best Buy, and whatever. It's basically the same. It's basically the same type configuration as what we did at Dayland Station. We did that, number one, because the land value is so expensive, and it's actually cheaper to build elevated parking garage than buy land per square foot. There's a way to build an elevated garage in Palmetto Bay and rent out the parking spaces and make money to some of the car dealerships in Palmetto Bay. We do that at Dayland Station with, I believe it's Williamson Cal. So you can also build something where you know your second generation is going to be an office building. It's very easy. Looking at the architect because he's probably rolling his eyes, but it's very easy to transform it from a parking garage to an office building. May not be feasibly economic, but there's always a way to transform it. But yes, could we build a parking garage right here? I mean, that's what the RFP is supposed to do. We're supposed to have somebody come in, go with an RFP, and build a parking garage. What that does for us, I don't know, except for we sure can, if there's 23 auto dealerships, probably rent every single parking space in that parking garage until it's needed, or at least 50%. There's always a need for parking in any real, in any area. And I know we've done it. I know we did at 5th and Alton because there's valet companies that come in and rent parking spaces, and I know it's done at Dayland Station. So yeah, you can cover your costs by what you can get. Not all your costs, but you can cover some of the costs by what you get from people who are willing to rent parking.
Councilman Singer, there's a couple of questions that came in via card, if you'd like to read them.
You want to read?
Can I be trusted?
Okay. Okay, I forgot to read. These people have a lot better handwriting than I do. When will Park Drive begin to be built? And I'm going to throw that over to the village manager. When will Park Drive begin to be built?
Park Drive is a portion of it is going to be built as part of phase 1. And the rest of it, I don't have the schedule in front of me, but the overall project is about a year long. So I don't remember exactly what the rest of Park Drive falls in place.
Next question is, what is the zoning plan moving forward? Right now, I'm going to keep extending the moratorium every 60 days until we can really have a comprehensive plan. I believe after looking at what we got from Dover poll, we need to really figure out a game plan. But once again, I'm one of 5, and I don't agree with the last plan that he gave us. So I can't answer for anybody else. I'm listening to this. Anybody else?
Did you say Santa Blanca was done?
I said I don't know if it's going to get built.
You don't know?
I don't know.
When will we know?
I don't know. What?
They have 2 years to develop.
They have 2 years. Oh yeah, they have 2 years and they lose their development rights from their approval, unless it's force majeure, which is if a hurricane hit or some act of God would extend that 2 years by the amount of time that's agreed upon. Anybody else? Are there any other questions? No? Comments? Concerns? You already talked. No. Anyway, I thank everybody for coming out. This could be like my 4th town hall meeting. I'm planning on continuing with some other ones in the near future. If you have any questions or comments, I'm sure you can address them to Karen Cunningham, Mayor Flynn, or me. Send us emails, and thank you guys. I hope you learned something tonight.
Very good. Thank you.